welcome to Tech Time. I'm just letting you know that this is not clickbait. After using this phone for a little bit over a year now, ever since it was released, I would strongly advise you to stay away from the Samsung Flip and maybe foldables in general for now. And yes, even the Samsung Fold. I'll have a dedicated video that will come out later specifically about the Samsung Fold and all the issues that I've had with this phone as well. But for now, let's dig into the Samsung Z Flip. Alright, so in rapid fire, I'm going to go through the very short list of good things that I liked about this phone and then the long list of bad things that I didn't like about this phone. So as far as the good things about this phone, first off, the watching experience on the phone, so watching Netflix, watching videos on YouTube, all of that was pretty good. Since it still has an OLED display and has decent speakers, the phone gives an all-around good watching experience. And second, software updates on this phone were pretty good. Samsung consistently has been pushing new updates out, and as you can see, the latest update was about 2 months ago. And third would be the cameras. The cameras are not amazing on this phone, especially when you compare it to the non-foldable phones that came out with it in the same year. However, the camera was actually pretty decent. It got the job done, it looks pretty good. But at the same time, for a phone that was released at $1,000, having just 2 cameras and not that many features in them is not great, but at the same time, they were decent cameras, so it's okay. And the last of the good things was the outside display. It was pretty good for notifications, playing and pausing music, checking the time, and all of that stuff. However, this is where all the good things end. It was a very short list, wasn't it? Also, even though I mentioned that the outside display was one of the good things about this phone, this is going to change very soon when we dive into the bad things. So I'm gonna start from the least bad, kind of nitpicking, to the worst. As you can see, right now, the phone has a lot of fingerprints on it. It's much harder to clean a plastic display than it is a glass display. Even though they say it's glass, it's still mostly plastic. Why, you may ask? That's because residue sticks much stronger to the plastic, and when you try and clean it, you're kind of mushing everything around. Unlike glass, where you just wipe it and everything comes off, plastic displays feel disgusting in comparison when you try and clean it. And once you have it cleaned, it gets very dirty very quickly. But that's not that big of an issue. The second thing on our bad list is accessories. A lot of accessories that work for normal phones don't really work for this. Kind of like a pop socket, where normally on a normal phone, you'd put it in the middle of the back, but on a phone like this, you'd have to put it all the way on the bottom because you can't put it on the hinge part. So if you have a pop socket like this, it's always top heavy, it will want to spin around. Something also that's not great about this phone when it comes to accessories is cases. And the issue with cases on the phone like this is that unlike normal phones, where you have a normal case that's just on the back and it has a little bit of a lip on the front so that it would protect the phone, this doesn't make the phone much thicker. But on a phone like this, it's twice as bad. Because of course, the case will make it thicker on the back as well, just like a normal phone, and there's the lip that sticks forward. However, when you close the phone, now it's twice as thick as it used to be, because now you have the back, the lip in the middle, and then another lip for the other side, and then the back of the other side. And here's an iPhone with a case for comparison. So in a word, it's chunky. Or that all cases have to be in parts. They're not just one seamless part. And also, as part of accessories, and this is obvious, you can't have a glass screen protector on a screen that bends. You have to put a plastic screen protector on a plastic phone so that it can bend with it. So what's wrong with plastic screen protectors, you might ask? That brings us on to the third issue with this phone. The screen protector started tearing right in the middle, along the seam of the phone where it folds. Because of the constant open and shut, the screen protector couldn't handle the abuse, and it completely got cut in the middle. And to give you a visual representation, it basically kind of looked like this, where since it was cut in the middle, and also since the phone bends, the screen protector right along the middle was kind of bending up in 2 different parts. So the parts that meet in the middle, where it was cut off, started looking like this. You can imagine how horrible that would feel to just move your finger back and forth along something that looks like this every time you want to scroll up or down. Not to mention that dust can get stuck between the 2 halves of the screen protector, which could cause issues to the display. But you might be thinking, so what? I can take the screen protector off and put a new one. And that's what I thought at first, until it got much worse. So because the screen protector was torn in the middle and it was making it much harder to use, we had to remove it, which is completely fine on the newer models. So that was 5 months in after buying the phone. 2 months later, however, on the 7th month, the display itself started tearing. As you can see, some on the corner and some in the middle. This is the actual display. And these are not from scratches or anything like that. This is just simply from normal daily use of just closing and opening the phone. Because like I said before, the display itself is plastic. And plastic, when it's bent multiple times over and over, starts making a crease and then starts tearing, which is what we're seeing right here. And a screen protector doesn't help with something like this because it can't stop the display itself from bending back and forth like it should. And the issue is with a phone like this is that unlike the Samsung Fold, you can't just use the outside display. You can't do everything on the outside display. With the Samsung Flip, you have to open the phone. So that would result in more flips during the day, which is more strain and wear and tear on the display. But that's as bad as it gets, right? Nope, I wish. So we finally reached the worst part of this phone by far. And that would be that after using this phone for about a year and 2 months, the worst happened. Out of nowhere, without any drops or anything like that, the phone started having a very weird issue. And that would be, if you try and close it, you see how it turned off? That's not normal. Why, you may ask? because it's completely dead. If you try to open the phone again or turn it on, it's gone. You have to actually hold it and turn it on. And even worse is that sometimes when you try and turn it back on, it wouldn't want to turn on, and you would have to open up the phone like this and then plug it in and then wait until the phone powers back on. And when the phone powers back on, the battery is just fine. It still has like 80% or whatever it was at before it died. Updating the phone and factory resetting it did not help, which led me to conclude that it's a hardware issue. So what's going on inside? My best guess is that every time I fold the phone, there's something that makes contact with the battery. So for the phone to prevent itself from frying itself or making a fire hazard or whatever, the phone automatically shuts itself to protect you and itself. But that's my best guess. You know why? Because, of course, this happened after a year and 2 months of owning the phone, which means it's not covered under Samsung's warranty anymore. So now you'd be forced to use this phone open at all times, which causes multiple other issues. First is that now that outside display that used to be a display is now just a mirror, because you can't use it while the phone is open, which sucks. You basically have a display that does nothing. Now you have a normal phone that doesn't fold down, and at the same time the specs of the phone were already not on par of the non-foldable phones that came with them at the same year. So basically you paid extra for a phone that does nothing extra. And like I said before, this is a plastic screen. And to put it in context, if you don't know already, there's a test called the Mohs Hardness scale. That test goes from 1 to 10, where 1 is basically like plastic level and 10 being like diamond level, which is very hard to scratch. Normal phones nowadays scratch at around a level 7, but for a phone like this with a plastic display, this scratches around a level 2. Huge difference, right? Almost anything can pretty much scratch your display by putting it in your pocket open like this. Side note, the phone is not turning on. I would have to plug it in. Yup. And the problem is, one of the biggest features with a phone like this was actually shutting it like this, because that way, if you drop your phone, you're much less likely to break your display, since your display can't even be hit from the outside. But now, you're forced to keep it open, you have a weaker display, it's much easier to scratch, you have a worse camera, the display is staring, the screen protector you had already tore apart, you'll probably need another one since you're gonna keep the phone open. The outside display is now useless, there's not that many accessories that work with the phone or that many good cases, and you can't game on it because the battery dies too quickly, and cleaning the display is not that easy, especially now that you have to keep it open, and you'll probably have a bunch of scratches now that you have to leave the phone open. And lastly, you would have paid $1,000 for a phone like this, where you could have easily paid that money towards a normal non-foldable phone with higher specs, and you would have had to deal with none of these issues. So in conclusion, I would definitely advise you to stay away from foldable phones in general until they at least improve the technology a little bit better, or the displays, to make them more reliable, to where hopefully one day I can buy a foldable phone without worrying about the display or any of these issues. And as some of the early subscribers on this channel might know, I daily drive the Samsung Z Fold 3, and I'll be releasing a video soon as well about this phone and what I don't like about it and if you should buy it or not. If you're interested in seeing that video, go ahead and subscribe so you get notified when I release that video. And with that, if you are still thinking about buying a foldable, let me know down in the comments why it is that you're thinking about buying a foldable. Maybe there's something I missed, or if you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll be sure to reply. And with that, peace.